some participation from all of you. I want you all to close your eyes and imagine, and I want you to picture that really horribly cold day. We're from Michigan, come on, it's really not hard, we know cold. So I want you to picture that day, and you're inside your house, and you've made the sprint from your house to your car. And I want you now to take away the car. I want you to take away the house. I want you to take away your neighbors' houses, your friends, your family, your backup plan, and everywhere you would go if all that was gone. What are you left with? Where would you go and what would you do if you were put in that situation? You would now depend on everybody else. You would depend on the whims of everyone to supply your daily needs like food, water, clothes, shoes, deodorant, toothbrush, everything. Can you even fathom what that would do to you? You can open your eyes if you still have them closed. I don't want people falling asleep. The thing is, what would that do? What happens to your pride? Would you be able to deal with that? Would you be able to deal with having to ask someone for everything? You are not a child. You don't want to be treated like one, you don't want to act like one, and you don't want to have to be cared for like one either. So what happens? People rebel when placed in that situation. They say, okay, I will walk 20 miles to get food in the morning because I have to survive. I will walk to get water, I will walk to get clothes, but I will take care of myself in any way that I can. Whether it's building a home, whether it's actually having to fall asleep within an abandoned building, or making your own house out of your own clothes in a playground somewhere, to say that that is my bit of independence, I made it myself, you can't take that away from me, and I don't have to ask you for permission to do so. And the problem is, you can see that. Literally 2 blocks away from where we're sitting now on Martin Luther King and 3rd, there's that area, there's a playground. It's actually burned down now, but it's covered in tarps and old clothes and scattered around with needles, and someone has made that their home. And that's where my project really started, was why would you do that? Somebody is literally 20 feet away. You can see a shelter from that house, from that person's place. You ask, why would you do that? Why would you rather wait outside in the cold than go there and ask for help? And that's where the project started. I saw that, I took a picture on my cell phone with that same question of why, and I walked into that shelter. Some people call it brave, I call it naive and stupid, but it was at 8 o'clock at night nonetheless, and I walk in there, and I had just been given an assignment from school to say design to fill a need. I'm a college student, I have ramen and a roof over my head, so most of my needs are being met pretty well actually. So I walked in there, and I had no idea of what I was getting myself into. A guy that looked like a linebacker with his arm in a splint puts me in front of 30 people sitting in chairs watching television, 30 homeless individuals. He clicks off the television, says, good luck, you're gonna need it. And I'm just standing there holding like my purse as if it's gonna protect me from bodily harm. And just like, okay, I need your help designing something. I need your help to do something. And after the swearing kind of toned down and it had quieted down, a few people did. A few people said, oh, we'll listen to you for a little bit, we'll talk to you. And I came back every week, 3 times a week for 5 months. And in that process, I designed this coat with them. It was really their idea coming to life. The first one took me 80 hours. I had to learn to sew from my mother, something I never recommend any of you do. 80 hours worth of work, I come back looking so proud and show it to them, and they're like, oh my God, it looks like a body bag. It was a Frankenstein of a coat, and I still cannot sew well to this day. So I failed hard and fast, and if there's anything you get from that, it's getting that out of the way. I did more and more coats, and I realized school had ended, the class was over, and I was still doing it for some weird delusional reason, and I kept on going, and I kept on going, even when it was over. And I was like, what was I supposed to do? Hey, peace out, guys. It was nice working with you. I hope, hope you don't need it, don't want it. And I realized that it needed to have more of an impact than me just sitting in my basement producing coats. because I so horribly, it wouldn't be nice to give those out to people. And that's when I joined up with a shelter in the area and started hiring. I hired 2 women in December, homeless females, paid them to learn industrial sewing and manufacturing, had a few people, fashion designers from the community, come in and teach. They were totally gung-ho about it, and then from there, it snowballed. I didn't realize what I was getting myself into, and we actually produced coats. We started producing them, and it was shocking. Like, I'm seeing people make it, and all of a sudden, to Alicia, the first woman I hired in December, it was a career path. It was something that she saw herself doing for the rest of her life. And she told me so. She's like, so when am I getting benefits? When am I getting health care? When am I going to get a raise in the manager position? And the college student in my head was screaming, oh my God, what? What happened? Serious? And she now, like in June, she was in a shelter. Now, herself and her 3 kids have an apartment. They're completely out of the shelter system. And her youngest son, Tabion, who's 6, is now learning Japanese at a charter school. And from the... And it was the same time that happened, we gave the first coat out. The first coat out of 75 coats we gave out, and that's the woman standing right here. Her name is Melissa, and you can see in the background that house. And as you know, in Detroit, there are 64,000 abandoned buildings and 36,000 to 20,000 homeless individuals on the streets. And when that comes together, you get people living in a building like that and paying rent to live in a building like that. Paying rent to live in a place with no heat, no running water, no windows, no doors, no locks, hopefully a good solid floor and a good solid ceiling, but this happens all over the place with buildings that don't obviously look as bad as that, but are just the same. She was the first person to receive the coat. And that was just this pivotal moment. I had been in denial. I was going to go work and get the job somewhere else that I had been trained to do in school, and all of a sudden, I had a woman that was looking at me for health care, and I was giving coats out, and then all of a sudden, the Red Cross is asking, okay, so when are we going to stockpile these for disaster relief? When are we going to get 20,000? I had just built 75. So the idea of scaling that large that quickly came out of nowhere. And that's when the denial stopped, and I realized, okay, so this is what I'll be doing for the rest of my life. I had thought that I would get the same job that I'd been trained to do, but where else in the world could a 22-year-old get a building? We are now in a building in Corktown. I live here, I work here, our business is here. Where else in the world but Detroit could a 22-year-old get a building? It's the same thing. It's the Wild West of creativity. If our job that we want isn't here and isn't being offered, we make it for ourselves. And I see... Alicia made it with me. She told me that she wanted it to be a job and wanted it to be permanent and made it into the job that she wanted. I ended up doing this instead of designing dishwashers or cell phones or anything like that. It really is. I think just because of Detroit and the timing, we can really change drastically our environment and the community around ourselves so easily. I've impacted one woman's life at 22 when I thought I couldn't ever. I would have to be far older to do that. I would have to be older, graduate degree before I could ever actually impact someone's life. And here we're doing it all the time. And that's everything. that's everything. That's it. Thank you.